Hey, it's Kathleen Petula. We are talking time management, and I wanted to start before I give you some of the things that I'm using right now. I wanted to start by saying that time management is not a destination. There's no getting there, in my opinion. There's no like, I've got it down, I feel good about it. Because things are always changing, and especially in this business, we always thankfully are moving forward, so we're adding more on. So there's always going to be more groups, or groups closing and new groups starting, or being added to more things, or getting more customers, or getting more coaches, um, and getting added to more and higher things, new product launches, and all that kind of stuff. So if we stop thinking that we need to get there with time management and think instead that it's more like something that will continually need our attention and our time, to keep building on what we do to manage our time, I think it's a much better mindset. I sometimes compare it to laundry. Like, just when you think you've put the final load in, of course, everybody's wearing clothes right this minute that are gonna, in just a few minutes need to be washed again. So it's more like that. It's more of a mindset of I gotta keep working on this, because thankfully things are gonna keep getting better and different, and more things are gonna come out, and I'm just gonna adjust as I go. So having said that, this is where I am right now, timestamp, of what I'm trying to do to manage my time. And basically, there are 4 categories in this business that we need to pay attention to. This is not my own personal idea. This is something that I learned when I became Diamond. And the 4 categories are, the acronym is RSVP. So these are the 4 things that we want to pay attention to in our business, kind of like wheels on a car. If you had 4 hours in a day, you'd want to spend 1 hour on each of these things. 1 hour, 15 minutes on each of these things. You get the idea. So breaking that down, R stands for recruiting. So that's the number one thing. It's first for a reason. And of course, we all know how important that is when we're pushing for Diamond. So recruiting, sales is the S. And then the V stands for very new people. So the new people that you onboard as coaches. And then the P stands for performers. So anybody in your downline that has a goal. Now, in the beginning, when you're at a stage when you're either just at Diamond or trying to push to Diamond, you may have very new people, and performers may be the same category. But nevertheless, those are the 4 things that you want to focus on. And much like a car, you need all 4 wheels to drive. So you don't want to be overspending time on one area and underspending time in another. So what I've done with those 4 things, that way of thinking of things has really resonated with me. And so I try and plan, when I'm planning my day, I try and plan around those 4 categories. And when I try and sit down and think, what do I need to do, I try and break out all the different tasks into those 4 categories. So I've done 2 things that I think have been helpful to me to organize in my head what I need to do. The first thing is that I take a piece of paper. So what my problem was is that I would, when I got an idea or something that I needed to like a to-do thing, I just grab the nearest piece of paper, I start making a to-do list, and I ended up with all these papers all over the place, and it was too much and crazy, and I couldn't get myself organized. I tried doing it with a notebook, and I needed something quick, but I needed it to be organized. So what I did was I take a piece of paper and I folded it in half, right? And then I folded it in half again. So it ends up being, I wish I was good at origami, and I had a little trick here where I was folding something and came up with a swan, but that's not the point of this discussion. So anyway, I folded it in half and half again. You can see now there's 4 quadrants on this paper, right? So then what I would do is I just put a little R in one, S in the next, V in the next, and P in the next. And this became my organizational to-do list, right? So basically the idea is that R being recruiting. So the tasks for recruiting would be things like direct invites, of course, and reaching out to people who are potential coaches, posting about things having to do with recruiting. But there are also your challenge groups. So any current challengers are potential coaches, and maybe even bigger than the direct invites to people that aren't part of them. So super important. So that R category. So I would write in here the challenge groups I have going. I might write in here that some of the people that I have that I wanted to think about recruiting. That all goes in the R quadrant of my paper. The S is for the sales again. And so those would be the things, again, about direct invites, groups that you have coming up. Maybe those are free group categories. So these are people that you want to buy something, maybe down the line coaching, but for now, thinking only about people buying something. So new conversations, relationship building, the Facebook list, stuff like that, checking in with other people, connecting with people, all that kind of stuff goes into the S category. And then the V category would be any coach basics that you have started, any particular new coaches that you want to have getting started right calls with. Let's see, if you have any kind of other things going on with creating templates or tools for new coaches, stuff like that. It's anything that can help out brand new people so that they can get locked in early on and feel connected and feel supported and get started right. And then performers would be anybody on your team in your downline that has a goal. So that goal might be that they want to get to Emerald, or maybe their goal is that they want to get to SC5, or maybe they're shooting for Star Diamond. But anybody that has any goal that's locked into this business, they become your performers. And so those ones, again, anybody on your team with a goal. It doesn't have to be a superstar goal, it just has to be a goal. So that's pretty much the breakdown of those 4 categories. And then what I do is, as I'm working on something, so let's say I designate an hour of my day to work on recruiting. So I'm working in those things in those categories. But let's say I'm working on that, and I'm working in Facebook, checking in with my groups, and I get the little bebong that, somebody messaged me, a coach messaged me with a question. So ideally what I would do, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but this is my goal, is I wouldn't answer that message right away because I'm working on my recruiting. But I would have my paper, my little quadrant paper here, and I would make a little note in my performer section that my coach so-and-so has a question about something that they're working towards. I would make a little note in my performers quadrant, and then when it's time to work on that area, then I can go right to that message and say, that's right, she had this question about that, I can answer her now. So that's kind of, I hope that makes sense. So that's kind of the idea, is to break it down, and when you're focused in on one area, the other things that come up in the other areas, if they're not urgent, then they can just make a little note, and you'll know that you'll get to those things when the time is that you have designated for that category comes. And the other thing is, on the back of my RSVP paper is all the other stuff that comes up in life. So I'm working on whatever sales, inviting, stuff like that. And then I remember, oh my gosh, I forgot to get my kid something for his field trip. Then I just flip my paper over and I write down, oh, remembered to do that. So then I don't have to stop what I'm doing, and I can acknowledge whatever has popped up in my head, but I don't have to totally get off track. So that's my idea there. Okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to say is, for me, I'm a binder person, so I'm not totally 100% online with everything, and I don't know that I ever will be. I like pen and paper stuff. So I have a binder for each of these categories also. So I'm also a color-oriented person. So my red binder is for recruiting, and in that binder, and I can post these in the group too. So I have little sheets of paper that help me remember who I have in which groups. So the further along you get, the more groups you're involved in. So for each challenge group, I've created a paper that says who all's in the group, who's posting in the group, which coaches are in there with me, or which challengers are connected to which coaches. And I try and keep track a little bit of my challengers, if they're participating, if I need to check in with them, if they've completed, if I've given them some kind of goals assignment or something like that, have they completed it? Or if I do like a challenge within the challenge, I can keep track of it there. So I keep in the binder all of the challenge groups that I have had going. And I also keep in there something about the people that I have invited to potentially coach. So that's what's in my recruiting binder. And then in my sales binder, I have a bunch of, I try and keep track of conversations that I have, people that have participated in free groups with me, and people that I want to follow up with directly who have, for one reason or another, their potentials, or they have conversations going. And so that's what I keep in the sales binder. And then the V, the very new people. I try and keep in there all the new coaches, and my coach basics group. I have used a similar form with the challenge groups, who's participating in those, which people are in there, are they, and then I can go back in and kind of check off, are they participating? Keep the templates for the Coach Basics in there, that kind of thing. So anything that has to do with getting coaches started right goes in another binder. And then the last binder is for my performers. And so I try and keep track of who has goals and if I have regular conversations set up with those coaches. So some of my coaches I do weekly calls with. So I try and keep in there things that I need to know about the coaches. So maybe if they're trying to build to diamond, I try and keep track of their diamond map, their diamond map in there, or make some other notes. I keep track of my own stats in there. So anyway, so I have 4 binders, RSVP binders as well. And then my goal would be when it's that designated time of the day to work with recruiting for whatever, then I have that binder available and I go through who am I recruiting, what groups are going on, and so on. And then so I would just, if this system maybe works for you, the other ideas would be if you have other things besides this RSVP. So for me, for example, I'm trying really hard to get a blog up and going. So then, so I just, you can actually see my current list that I'm working for. I actually folded this one into 6 quadrants instead of 4. And so I still have the RSVP, but I also have a little, I guess it's not a quadrant anymore if there's 6 of them, but a little a square for blogging. It's because even though I blog in the categories of R and S, recruiting and sales, I want to learn the back stuff about blogging. So I made that a separate little quadrant for myself, and another little quadrant for another project that I'm doing with just general planning and meal planning and stuff like that. So these are kind of my special categories, but I still have the RSVP and I still use the back for personal stuff. So anyway, and you can see I have different colored paper because I like to be color coded. I like it to stand out which color am I on this week. So that's pretty much it for me. That was a lot and that was quick. I'm going to post in the group also. I'll post a link to the papers I use to keep my challenge groups organized. And hopefully this made sense, but I'm certainly happy to talk through it more if that would be helpful. Take care. Have a good day.